Now, President Trump's claims on India cutting back on Russian oil imports are really not borne out by facts on the ground. Russia happens to be and continues to be India's top supplier of oil, and that has been the case over the last 3 years, despite all of these nudges and threats and, downright lies by Trump and his administration. Back in June of this year, Russia's share in India's oil imports were about 44%. At that time, India was importing close to 2 million barrels of Russian oil every day. That dipped a bit to 34% in July, around the time of the first set of tariffs going into effect. And it slowly came down to 37.8% in August. And the final month that we have full month figures for, Russia continues to be India's top supplier of oil, imported oil, at 34%. So it's come down to just about 1.5 million barrels per day. But that is in no way any substantial cutting down of Indian purchase or Indian import of Russian oil. There is simply no evidence to suggest on the ground that because of Trump's tariff threats or his repeated comments and fallacies that he's been sort of peddling, that India will cut back on Russian oil, there's been any change to that effect on the ground. It comes down to the question of why is Donald Trump making such baseless claims? He's been repeating this, and of course the claims that he made about the ceasefire between India and Pakistan and mediation when Operation Sindoor were happening. He's been saying this again and again. Let's say, for example, what happened in May after the 4-day Operation Sindoor. Donald Trump was the first one to announce it to the world, and he claimed that he was the one who brokered the truce between India and Pakistan after Operation Sindoor. He's repeated that multiple times. I've lost count how many number of times he said that, more than 50 times in the last 5 months. But it is a fraudulent claim. It is a complete false claim, which India has rejected outright every single time he's made those claims. Trump is now claiming that India has promised him that they will end Russian oil imports. But again, the data, and I just read out the data a moment ago, it shows that that is far from reality. India continues to import a hell of a lot of oil from Russia. In fact, Russia continues to be India's #1 supplier of imported crude. The MEA has also categorically said last week that no conversation happened between Trump and Modi. At least nothing happened last week. But there was a conversation that happened in the last 24 hours where Trump dialed Modi to wish him on Diwali. And again, there was simply no conversation about India cutting down on purchase of Russian oil. Donald Trump, of course, has proceeded to threaten India with more and more tariffs if Russian oil imports continue. In fact, India is the only country on whom an additional 25% secondary tariffs have been imposed because of what he calls the import of Russian oil. But India has made it clear that the purchase of Russian oil is done in India's national interest and to keep domestic prices low, and there is no changing from that position anytime soon.